Welcome to In the Spotlight here this morning on a Thursday. I'm Amy Scruggs, and I am partnered today with Christian LeFer. He's the founder and CEO of Instant Nonprofit. He has helped grow and originate more than 3,000 nonprofit organizations across the nation. And so he has brought one of his incredible connections, friends, and someone that he also helped in the nonprofit sector. And it is Peter Strople, who Time Magazine has once called the most connected man in America. So I'm really excited for this interview and excited to learn more. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
Thank you, Amy. It's exciting to be here.
It's so Christian, let's tee it up. Tell us how you met Peter and what this relationship grew into and what it is to you.
Peter Strople was introduced to me by a mutual friend, and it was as if I had known Peter all my life. Instant, one of those instant bonds. And that who introduced me to Peter has started several nonprofits with our company, and he just is a doer of good in general in Colorado. And then I realized while I was sitting down with Peter that someone he taught some great things years ago about branding and marketing, and really even more than branding and marketing, how to create a meaningful impact in other people's lives through business. Had been taught, right? Somebody who had influenced me in what we're doing had been taught by Peter. And I discovered that while I was sitting with Peter. So I'm describing to Peter this incredible person that came into my life and taught me a way of some models, some paradigms and frameworks to think about marketing and impactful business, et cetera. And as I'm describing this person to Peter, I see him looking down at his phone, and, no big deal, right? That happens all the time. And then Peter hands the phone over to me, and it's that person I was talking about. I didn't know that the person I was talking about, Peter had really trained and mentored in those very frameworks. So instant awesome connection. And ever since, Peter has just been wonderful as a support, whether it's just giving me love and encouragement or helping to mentor, through a particular issue. And most often I get random calls from people who say, I just wanted to call and let you know Peter Strople loves you, and I need to start a nonprofit or something similar. So that's how Peter operates, and I'll let him speak for himself. But I'm so thankful to have a good friend and mentor, and an encouragement from a man like Peter Strople. Thank you, Peter.
Love you. I love you. Thank you so much.
So Peter, let's talk about your background a little bit. Your fingerprints are all over the place. Let's talk about what have been some of the main highlights for you over the years.
It's hard to talk about my life without, I'm not talking like I'm going to be going back to when I was an embryo, but when I was born, I have a twin sister, and we had a single mom. And she put us up for adoption, and it was just before we, 1 year old. And by the time I was 4, I had 3 different names. So I was born Laszlo Csupor. She was Hungarian, and then they put us in a orphanage. The orphanage called me Barnabas, called me Barney, and then my dad, who adopted me, called me Peter. So you can imagine going through life trying to figure out not only safety and who are the people that just even as a child, that you don't want to find safety and love. And I realized after my dad adopted us, and he had already had 3 daughters, and he wanted to make sure that he wanted to have a son. So he picked me out, and then he brought my sister along, and I'm glad he did. My sister was dealing with some health issues at the time, but you can imagine going through life. Within a year of us being adopted, my dad's his wife died of cancer, and so all of a sudden here he is. He's got these little kids that are 10 years younger than his youngest child, and now he has to figure out, as a business executive, how do I survive? And he had a nervous breakdown, and we were kind of passed from family to family, and over the years, I became very clear that I had to get around people that I met. I could see people immediately that were fake. I could see people that I knew were claiming that they were representing love, when I knew that wasn't the case at all. My sister saw that in a different way as well. But I knew very quickly that I had to create my own life. And the people that I was saying that I thought were the best, I needed to, when I found somebody that I thought was the best, I had to hold on to that. And I had to know that even if it wasn't now, at some point in time when they came back into my life, it was going to be something very special. And I used to describe that I knew my body based on the first year of life. I knew what love was because I experienced it, but even though I didn't see love after that. But I did know my body had experienced that. And because of that, I could sit back and sense, this is what I want to create my own life. And that's what I had to do. And for many years, when I got into business, my focus was meeting people. I could tell people that were fake. I could people that were all about themselves. There's certain people that I were just so down to earth. The people you just want to spend time with. I knew there were people that I just wanted to hold that relationship as special, and I would always use that. And that's what I've done for the rest of my life. And it's kind of the base of kind of who I am today. So.
Wow, what an incredible story! I mean, I can't imagine. Most of us can't imagine experiencing what you went through, and then watching, your father go through that adopted you. Let's talk about some of those connections that you made then, in your adult career. How has that allowed you to impact lives in the community, and what have you seen? Let's talk about the foundations that you've been a part of.
Sure. Well, my goal was to play hockey. I mean, I want to be a professional hockey player, and that's what Canadians do. And when I was young, I was so good that I became a scout. That's what I tell people. My junior team and our coach said, "Hey, Peter, would you want to be a scout?" And I said, well, "I don't even know what a scout is." And he said, "I really love the way you look at things." He said, at the time I was 20 years old. He said that there's a very senior way that you look at life, and the way that you describe, and you're not afraid to go against the grain. So when you're sitting with a bunch of older people that were scouting, and this time was junior hockey, I'd be the one person who said, I don't really agree with you. I don't see that with that person. I don't think he has that capability. And yet I'm this young guy, right? And I'm dealing with people who are 50, 60, 70 years old. And I said, this is just what I feel. And that's what they said to me. He said, there's something about you being able to say these things where not only did they take it from a younger person, but they respected you enough to be able to say, this is it. So they actually, my junior team made me the chief scout. And you can imagine that. I mean, as a young guy, it's just crazy, right? Well, within 2 years, a couple of pro teams came to me, one of the Boston Bruins and the New Jersey Devils, and I became a scout for the Devils, and I became their Western scout in Western Canada. So now I'm sitting there traveling and meeting legends of hockey and people that are in the Hall of Fame that are scouting. And so I was living a dream. I was hanging with people that you dream about and talked about and read about. And now for the first time, I was able to do that. Well, what I saw is in the fan base, people were reaching out to me. Hey, Peter, can you introduce me to somebody? I used to people call me out. Hey, can you get me, Wayne Gretzky's autograph? Sure. I would do that all the time. And what I was realizing in my life, where I was around these legends, and I could literally walk up and have coffee with them. I could introduce them to people. It changed their lives because now they're meeting these people that they were dreaming about. And there was one time when I decided to leave hockey, I was offered an opportunity with IBM, and IBM was offering me a job just for a summer in the community that I grew up in, because they thought my name and because of my dad's background in oil and gas, I might be able to open a door to sell a product, right? And I wasn't a salesman. I didn't believe I was a salesman. But what I did do is I was a chairman of an oil company when they put an announcement in the newspaper that I was joining the company. A chairman of the company called and said, "Hey, would you meet me tomorrow?" And I went, "Sure." Well, then I go to my boss at IBM and he goes, I said, "Hey, this guy calls. He wants to meet tomorrow." And he said, hold it. He said, "That's the chairman of the company." I said, "I know. He wants to meet tomorrow." He said, "Hold it." He said, "You know, we've been trying to get into the company for 9 months. You're telling me the chairman called you?" And I said, "Yeah, he wants to meet tomorrow." I started to get kind of freaked out because I didn't know that wasn't normal, where somebody just calls you and, "Hey, do you want to have a coffee?" And they literally flew a guy from Toronto, red eye, overnight, an executive, to be part of that meeting. So I knew they were taking it very seriously. What it freaked me out. I went to the 40th floor of this building. It was a big, boardroom. And we walk in the room, and I got this guy beside me, and he was literally talking to himself like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And as we walk in, there's two guys at the very end of this table. It was a big table, and I felt like we were walking forever. And as we're walking up to this guy, he stands up, and he shakes my hand and says, "Peter, it's great to meet you." And then he had an executive beside him. He said, "You two guys need to know each other, but you need to go off and talk technical. I want to talk to Peter alone." Right. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm going to have a conversation. I didn't even know what IBM stood for. I was just like, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Listen, I really don't know anything. I don't know anything about the products and service." He said, I don't want to talk about that." He said, "I want to talk about hockey." I said, "Hockey?" And he said, "Do you know my son?" And he gave me his name. I said, "Yeah, I know your son," because I was scouting, right? And he said, I want my son to get a scholarship to a U.S. university. Could you help me do that?" And I said, "Oh, no question. I know he's a great hockey player. I could absolutely help him." I literally took out a New Jersey level devil letterhead, and I hand wrote him a letter, and I handed it to him and said, "This is for your son." And he said, and that day he opened the door. He said, "Anything you want to do for my company with IBM is done." I became this
Wow.
top salesperson. Yeah, it was crazy. And I realized it's about relationship. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the world. I got smart people around me, right? So the thing for me was just relevant. It's just relevance, and it's safe in a conversation. And what I realized, the higher you go in organizations anyway, it becomes more social. It's not about experts, right? When you get to that level, they really just want to talk about friends and talk about things that matter. And I realized as my life went on, I started to meet amazing people, and I was getting introduced to amazing people. And and if you don't mind, I can share one story. I had the chance to
Please.
meet Dave Thomas from Wendy's, and at the time, I was actually involved in investment. My career developed. I went to Dell Computers. I was an executive with Dell during the great years, and then I left Dell, and I just wanted to create my own business. I didn't want to be around. I didn't want to be around something where it was just based on, at that moment in time, everybody's successful. And I saw that with Dell at the time. Anybody who worked for the company was going to do well, just because even a monkey could have made money at that time, right? And so when I left, I just wanted to be around good people. And when I started to go off and do my own, I wanted to be my own investor. And I got involved in a business that I was helping create, and it's based on a crisis. There was a Florida hurricane that went through and just ruined Miami and that area. And we had created some technology that I thought was going to change the life of the first responders in regards to being able to find people and things like that. Well, Dave Thomas had put some money into that business. And then we had this conversation. He said that he heard that I'd been adopted. And we had this conversation about, hey, about adoption and what you want to do. And he asked me a question that I'd never been asked before. He said, "Peter, what do you need to do? What do you need to have to have a great life?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, how much do you need to earn this year to have a great life?" And I said, $1 million. He said, "Okay." He said, "But what if you make 10 million?" I said, "What?" He said, "You already told me $1 million is all you need to have a great life. If you make 10 million, then he's trying to share with me that you need to give back.
Mm-hmm.
If you got too much, right? You got to make a difference in the world." And I remember thinking about that. If that's what I need to have an amazing life, then the next thing is, wow. And it changed. And then he introduced me to some of his friends, and people said to me, people like Wayne Huizenga. There's a guy by the name of, he's one of the founders of, actually was the founder of Office Depot. his name escapes me right now. Amazing guy. But these guys said to me, if you're a friend of Dave's, you're a friend of mine. And I'm thinking, what? Where I thought these guys were going to be arrogant. In some cases, they're billionaires. Are you serious? They were so down to earth. They were so thankful for what they've been given. And that was Dave's world too. And I realized, wow, it's not about arrogance. You don't even have to try to be something more than you just are. It just made me think about things differently. And anyway, that was it.
Well, it's just powerful because what you've done is you've broken through. So many people talk about networking and, they want to have those relationships. But what you've shown us here today, which I just firmly believe in, is the authenticity, real relationship, real connections that authentically go to that next place you're going to go to. And then you're meeting the right people that keeps introducing you to meeting the right people. The same way I came in touch with Christian. I met Christian through one of the right people in my life that said, hey, you've got to know this guy. And then here the three of us are today. And that's been, the story of my life and understanding that authenticity. And you have just brought it to us in such a next level. Christian, I'd love your thoughts on this as well, because I know that you model those same principles.
Yeah, I mean, something that struck me while Peter was talking about, everybody wants to meet this person or get this thing done, right? And there's this, and in business, gets, whether it's a bad rap or it's correct, whether it's deserving or not. People are like, okay, what's the angle, right? What's the reason this person, and we live in a world now, right? We're so, in a way, we're so connected and everybody's being pitched to all the time. And so they put up these walls, these barriers to real relationship because they're worried about being pitched. And this even happens, whether it's in love relationships, friendships, and especially in business. And so what Peter just made me think about is something we touched on last time we had an interview and the time before, right? This idea of the quantum concept of superposition, right? Where something can exist in two states at the same time. And my idea that the nonprofit is the quantum entity because it superpositions you through intent. Your intent is not to get the next deal. Your intent is to make a positive change, to bring love to someone, to expand the world through making a connection. Then business takes care of itself. But you actually are creating something that exists in two states, the other state being love, being expansion, connection, oneness, altruism, whatever you want to call that. Peter is a natural person who naturally superpositions, right? And boom, it's like the connections made, the affirmation and the support and love is there, and then the business naturally happens, right? And that is what is so special about Peter and why I'm so appreciative of having him in my life and having him be able to, when people want to start a nonprofit, of course, they go, hey, I know the guy. But all of those relationships start with that love, that connection, and that support. And that's why I wanted to have this interview today with Peter, because I really appreciate that. And some of the most amazing people that I know in my life right now, I met through Peter. And so this whole thing is just networking and mushrooming into something that's really special. And some of these projects are changing lives on a mass scale. So that's why I love Peter. That's why I love friends of Peter. Peter has these meetings. These meetings take place amazingly, whether Peter's are even around or not. I've been to plenty of friends of Peter meetings where Peter's up. Where's Peter? Well, he's in Texas. This is in Colorado or whatever. People are getting together. And what is the focus of that meeting? But each person there truly.
Oh, we lost Christian there for a second. Christian froze up on us, but Peter, you're still here with me, right? Peter, are you still here with me?
I think
there we go. We got Christian back.
We had a COVID internet moment.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you now, Peter. Thank you.
I've gone to Friends of Peter meetings where Peter's not there, but the important thing is that everyone that shows up is there to support each other. And that's just what's so beautiful. I think we might have lost Peter, but
we lost Peter. If
anyway,
he comes back, we'll put him back in. But
that is
absolutely,
this idea of convergence of cause and commerce, and the superposition that intent and caring about making the world a better place is and the thing that makes all of the difference in a world where people are understandably becoming cynical about constantly being pitched for some business agenda.
I agree. And this just really brought it back to just real humanity, real life, real heart, real people connection, and real people doing the right things at the right time and coming together. Peter, if you could give just, a piece of advice to young entrepreneurs, young business owners, maybe new young people that have started their foundations and are ready to make a difference in the world, what would be your best advice to them as they're uncertain, as they move forward in making these kind of connections?
Well, I love what Christian was saying, and I agree that I get more people that are introduced to me because they're significant people, and they want their friends to know that they know somebody significant. And when I talk to those people, they say the same thing. They say, "I wish I could do what you do." And I'm saying, you're a CEO of a corporation. I know they think that they can't do that while they're working. And I said, why can't you? I don't get that. I mean, and I've never seen, we're now in the world of investing. And so you meet a lot of people. It doesn't take long for people to understand, what somebody's passion is and what makes sense for them to take something to the next level. But I always ask them, I said, look, so what are you going to do? It's Dave Thomas's comment, so if you need this to make a great life, then what are you going to do to make a difference? So I'm asking you, so if we help you get successful, what are you going to do to make a difference? Are you going to change anything? And if they don't have something in their mind or some idea of this is where I want to make a difference in the world with my influence, with my power, all of that, with my money, I don't believe it's going to be created. I really don't think that's going to I don't think you have the opportunity to get there unless that. And I've seen more businesses that were struggling until they stopped and said, you know what? This is what I want to do to make a difference. Mm-hmm. This is a nonprofit. This is an issue that's going on in the world that I want to be part of. And once they say that and they line themselves with somebody, all of a sudden everything starts to happen. All the relationships come. The big deals they are working on start to happen. It's incredible, and that's what I really believe in. And I, my favorite quote is a Roy Croft quote: "I love you not for who you are, but for who I am when I'm with you." And if we can't create relationships where we say that person walks in the room that makes us a better person, it's not a relationship. And that's what I want. I love what Christian was talking about, because I love dream relationships. Create a dream. Who's in that dream? Who are the people you want to be around that? And I will use those names when you tell me to validate your idea. And it's just two people coming together. There's no big presentation. It's not something. It's just literally what I call a fireside chat. Just two great people meeting, and just sit back and talk about what we could potentially can do together. And by the way, this is what we can do to change the world. And
powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful mic drop moment right there. I've always said I hope that you're better for knowing me. Same thing. If you leave the room and you've met me, I hope you're better for knowing me, whether it was for a minute or whether it was for 10 years or a lifetime. I want to be that person in people's lives to say they were better. And you completely are the example of that, as well as Christian, who I know very well. Christian, everybody is better for knowing you and the fingerprint that you have on the world as well. So that is the message today: is what are you going to do to give back? Who are you? What is your mission? What is your purpose to serve and give? And then watch and see how the shift can take place in who you're meeting and where you're growing as an individual, as a business, and on your mission. Thank you both for being with us today. This was really an honor.
Thank you, Amy. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. We'll see you. Hey, thanks, Christian. We'll see you.